My name's Colin Snape. I'm Deputy Director of Policy with the RHA. I'm here this afternoon to do a short presentation on, as it says on the slide there, the future of training and recruitment in the sector. 3.5 years ago I set up the Trailblazer Group for the sector after having spent 2 or 3 years prior to that taking on up to 100 apprentices with my previous company, which was Nagel Langdons, the children frozen food operator. I was made aware of Trailblazers at that time, and was also told that if we didn't have a Trailblazer apprenticeship in place by April 2017, then the likelihood is there wouldn't be any apprenticeships in the sector. I know in the main conference earlier on, we were told there was sort of 16% said that they was unaware of what the levy was. But is anybody here not aware of what a Trailblazer apprenticeship is? Okay, so we've still got somebody that's still unaware of it. Okay, so we set up the Trailblazer 3.5 years ago. The group's now got in the region of 130 employers as part of the group. We have, within that 130, we also have the other trade associations. We have colleges, universities, and a multitude of the larger training providers. We've worked hard over this last 3.5 years to have this apprenticeship ready for the 1st of April. The RHA and Jack in particular, Jack Semple, my boss, along with some of the other trade associations, lobbied hard while we were doing this process to make sure we got a good level of funding to make sure the apprenticeship could actually go forward. Apprenticeships in the past have primarily been based on 4 or 5 assessments throughout the year. The funding was not able to be used for driver training, so it was a farce anyway. The funding was reduced down by 50% if you went above 19, and it went altogether if you was above 24. So these are some of the things that we've lobbied for, worked with the group, the trade associations have lobbied on our behalf to make sure those are not the same going forward. So we believe that the Trailblazer, which I'll talk to you about in a little while, is a real transformation in the sector. It gives us the opportunity that we've never had before for the really small employers, the owner drivers, to be able to take somebody on from in the family, to train them thoroughly. There's sufficient money now to get people through to their C+C licence. So we really feel that it's a huge transformation. Obviously, while we're in the process of writing the apprenticeship, the apprenticeship levy was announced. The levy being a tax on a training tax as such. So employers with payrolls of £3 million or more, as of the 6th of April, are paying 0.5% of that payroll into a holding tank as such, a holding bank or tank, whatever you want to call it, that only that employer can get their money back from by employing either a new apprentice or taking somebody from within their own staff and putting them through an apprenticeship. So that's the only way they can get this money back. While the lobbying was going on, as I said, we increased the funding. I'll talk about the level of funding in a little while. We also made sure that some of the other barriers that were in there before were taken out. So the age barriers, for instance, have all gone now. If you want to put a 50-year-old on apprenticeship, you can. The barrier that was another fairly strict barrier was that you couldn't actually carry out a level 2 or a level 3 apprenticeship if you already had a level 2 or a level 3 or a level 4 or a level 5. So you couldn't go below what you'd done in the past. Those barriers have been taken away now, and as long as you're learning a new skill, then you can complete, if you've got a level 5 qualification, a degree, you can carry out a level 2 driving apprenticeship. Most of the thing I'm going to talk about today is based on the drivers, but we do have 2 other apprenticeships as well. So why did they change? About 5 years ago, managed to get some money out of the government at that time, and the whole idea was it was putting the funding into the pockets of the employer, basically. So rather than the large universities and colleges having all the funding, drawing down the funding and paying huge amounts out to their chief executives and their large administration departments, the actual employer could choose the training provider that they felt best could do the job for them. That worked. It worked very well, and it was the forerunner really of the Trailblazer and the apprenticeship levy as it stands now. The Richards Review had stated that apprenticeships wasn't fit for purpose. They then wanted apprenticeships written by employers for employers. So we know the sector better than anybody else, so why not write the apprenticeships ourselves? As I said before, we've increased the funding. We've managed to increase that funding. We've removed those age barriers, and we're now able to do multiple apprenticeships. This is really important for the levy payers because they need to get their money back that they've paid. We believe that the Trailblazers definitely will increase the quality of apprenticeships. One major change within the apprenticeships was that there was no test at the end of it as such. Now you have to carry out an endpoint assessment, which is carried out after a 12-month apprenticeship is completed. So the funding that we've managed to lobby the government for a driver is £5,000. On the next screen will show that in a bit more depth. The route to get to that funding is if you're an employer with 1 to 50 employees, then you're able to get the full funding and there's no co-investment requirement. If you're an employer with 51 employees but a less than £3 million payroll, then you're expected to put a 10% co-investment and the government will fund 90%. And then there's those employers that are paying the levy, payrolls 3 million or above. They're going to lose 0.5% of that payroll into the levy. For instance, then, if you're a £100,000 levy payer, the government are going to top that up by 10%, so you will end up having £110,000 to spend. Once you've used your levy pot, and the large levy payers that I've been talking to in the sector have said that they're going to use their levy, you then fall back into the co-investment of 90%, 10%. So, there's a good level of funding there now. So that funding, as you can see on the screen there, the core government funding is £4,500 for the co-investment employer, £5,000 for the small employer, and the levy payer. If you're within that bracket of 51 employees up to 3 million, then you're expected to put £500. It's £5,000 core funding. A couple of additional extras there is if you do. Well, you are willing to take somebody that's under 19, and every driver apprentice I put through in Noggle Langders was under 19 because I wanted the full amount of funding. There's no insurance issues. It's not an issue. I've spoken to all of the major brokers, most of the major insurers. We've sent them the apprenticeship standard. They have said to us, have come back to us, said that the only thing that they would expect to see is a slight increase in excess on that vehicle for that driver. No actual premium increases. So it is worth investing in the younger people. If you do, there's an extra £2,000. £1,000 of that comes back to the employer and £1,000 goes to the training provider. There's extra funding that I haven't really detailed on the slide. Should you take somebody that come in from a care plan between 19 and 24, there's another £2,000. And there's also up to £1,000 for the guys to do English and maths. So, as I said there, this is all about apprenticeships. The days of being able to filter funding away to things that are not training or not apprenticeship relevant have stopped. So the only way you can get your money back or make use of that levy, or if you're not a levy payer, the funding is by taking on an apprentice or training one of your current staffs through an apprenticeship. You can't pay wages. The one thing we can't do actually is this what they call a statutory licence to practice. So we can't actually pay for the driving test. So the £120 that it costs to actually put the final test through. What we have been able to manage to do with this apprenticeship, unlike previous ones, is that we can fund the driver training. So 30% of the funding we've allocated towards the driver training element of the apprenticeship. The apprenticeships that we've developed at the moment are the Level 2 driver, the Level 2 traffic operator, and the level 2 warehouse operative. They're ready to go live now. They came in as of the 1st of April. They're the only ones in our sector at the moment that are relevant and are ready for use. At the moment we're developing a level 3 supervisor. Having spoken to the Trailblazer group, and this will resonate with you all no doubt, is that the sector's particularly good at finding really good people, promoting them to supervisor, and then not particularly good at giving them the skills to supervise. So they've got the technical ability but don't have the ability, the soft skills to do the walk around checks, the accident reports, the back to work interviews, all the things that you'd expect a supervisor to do. We've now included that into this level 3 supervisor apprenticeship. We've also included into it the transport manager CPC. So by putting somebody from within your organisation on a supervisor level 3 apprenticeship, you'll be able to carry out the transport manager CPC funded within that apprenticeship. And again, we've done the same with the manager, the operations manager. These are both ready to go, the level 3 and 5. They'll be sent to the Institute for Apprenticeships on Friday this week. The degree apprenticeship is a subgroup of the Trailblazer group, and they're working on, as it states there, a degree level apprenticeship at level 6. And we've also got a master's programme in development, in the early stages of development. So there's no reason there now why somebody that's joining our sector that's not going to go down maybe the driver role, because drivers tend to stay as drivers, but if they're coming into the traffic office or any other office roles, then there's no reason why they can't start on an apprenticeship with you and then go all the way through their career on an apprenticeship. As it states there, 170 Trailblazer groups at the moment, and they're working on over 400 different standards. This next slide's a little bit busy, unfortunately, but having looked at all of those 400 standards that are being approved at the moment, or are being worked on, these are the only ones that are relevant to our sector that I could pull out of there. Now, for the large levy payers, it's not particularly good because there's not much that they can draw the funding back down with. Until we've got the level 3, 5, 6 and 7 prepared and ready to go, then this is all that's available for the large levy payers to draw back down on. However, for those of you who are small employers, there's a great opportunity here for somebody that's sat in your traffic office, never been given any training, to put them through an apprenticeship, to give them that level of training that they need, a good certificate that's been written by employers for employers, basically. So there's the 3 at the top there that we've developed, the 3 level 2s. I managed to find a customer service apprenticeship that's ready to go, which would obviously be useful to most employers. There are the team leader, supervisor, the ones that we're developing. Then I managed to find a few around the pay area, payroll. The compliance one on there is more financial compliance rather than compliance as we know it, in the safety world. There is a level 3 fitter apprenticeship available to go, and they're also working on a level 4 workshop supervisor, which will be a really good apprenticeship once it's in and running. And then the bottom group down there are for the IT, the bigger companies that are taking on lots of IT people, the Amazons and DHLs of the world. So how do us as employers make this levy, or if you're not a levy payer, how do we make it work for us? Well, as the slide stays there, everybody, I believe now, that takes a new person on in their company should put them straight into an apprenticeship. There's no reason that you need to have the term apprenticeship anything to do with the people you take on. You can call it, whatever company's continued professional development plan. The term apprenticeship is just really the vehicle to get access to the funding. Current employees, depending on their educational standard, can take any type of the apprenticeships we've spoken about. As I said before, if they're learning a new skill, then they can take an equivalent level, a lower level, or obviously, of course, a higher level apprenticeship. A lot of the companies anyway already do the warehouse and office staff to wheels, but it could be that you've not thought of training you guys, if you're a levy payer, training you guys in the warehouse up to their Cat C. They may never become drivers, they may go back into the warehouse, but when the run up to Christmas comes up, and you're getting really busy, rather than having to take agency guys on, you've got guys trained in your warehouse or your traffic office that you can put back out on the road. It's easier to backfill a warehouse guy sometimes than it is to find a good driver on the run up to Christmas. There's no reason why your current Cat C licence holders can't be put through an upgrade to Cat C plus E. The endpoint, the gateway to the endpoint assessment is that they must have a licence. It doesn't say they've actually got to take C or CE, so they can move from C to CE. And then any of your senior people or supervisors, team leaders, managers can be put through these ones that we're developing, which should be ready by about September time. The degree one may take a little bit longer. The degree apprenticeship is looking at drawing down somewhere in the region of £27,000 worth of levy pay, or if you're a non-levy payer, £27,000 worth of money you can use for training to put somebody through a degree apprenticeship. And obviously, you know, the senior team, there's a great opportunity there once the masters programs are in place to put your senior team through a master's degree as an apprenticeship. Thank you very much.
Okay.